Richard Fossey joins us. He's the author of the book, The Dixie Apocalypse, that you can get on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. And boy, when you hear the word apocalypse, ooh, and you see the cover of his book, it makes me think, yikes. And that's the idea of this book and of what he talks about in this story for sure. So Richard, thanks so much for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me, Kate.
What was it that led you in this direction to tackle this as a story?
I began reading some dystopian fiction. There's several writers who write in this genre, and I several of them are very good, and they're all set in a particular geographical setting. And I wondered, what would it be like if the economy melted down and we had all these apocalyptic events? What would it be like in Louisiana and Texas? And that's what got me started.
And you know what? It's so interesting. In the prologue, you even say, how many years has it been since I received a Social Security check? How long has my city been under martial law? Ooh. When did my neighbors start carrying handguns? When was the last time I saw a policeman drove a car or drank a cup of coffee? I thought that was so apropos and wonderful that you set it up that way. For you in writing the book and creating that feeling, what was it like to delve into it? Especially, as you said, you looked at some of the writers out there, you like the genre. What was it like for you to create the characters and really delve into it?
My characters just sort of appeared. It's like they were always there and they just showed up to help me. I was looking for characters who were cheerful, positive, had a sense of humor, because I think if we really have a major crisis of some kind in this country, and a lot of people say we will, it will be challenging, but I think it will be, for some people, it will be exhilarating. They sort of have to fall back on their own skills and their own it's sort of their own mental toughness, and that a lot of people will find it zestful. So that's what I tried to do, was create characters who sort of leaned into the future and had sort of a zestful approach to life.
And so you say that, and it makes me think of Gordon. He's a construction contractor. And he and Laura, as you describe it, live on a 2-acre tract north of Lake Pontchartrain. And he mowed his lawn with a small tractor, and he did it weekly. And you talk about, for a while, they refused to be driven out, knowing their home would be destroyed by arsonists if they abandoned it. Ooh, tell us more about the stories like Gordon and Laura in your book.
Well, Gordon is based on a real character. And Gordon and his wife live near Lake Pontchartrain, and they have suffered from at least 3 hurricanes. And so there are people who live along the coast who just refuse to be driven out. But they face the possibility of a hurricane every year. So I admired that guy. And also he has the tools he needs. He's a craftsman. So that was one character. The president of Texas, Cole Goodnight, is a descendant of Charlie Goodnight, and Texans know who Charlie Goodnight is. He's the rancher who blazed the Goodnight Loving Cattle Trail, and is kind of a folk hero in Texas. So I created a character who is a descendant of Charlie Goodnight. And he was actually based on someone who I admire, just a very practical sense of the ability to quickly size up a situation and pull fragmentary data together and make a decision. So that's where that character come from. People have told, go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I want to reemphasize this, the Dixie Apocalypse. It's like you said, you really focus on, what happens as what you just described there to those people on the Gulf Coast, to those people in those areas. And I think that's so interesting. It's because you write what you know, right?
Right, right. Yeah, and one thing that made me think about this is my ancestors lived in the Dust Bowl during the Depression, and they were just wiped out. And I think they were psychologically wiped out, just depressed by the total destruction of their environment. My wife's family lived in South Louisiana during the Depression, and they don't seem to have the traumatic memory. And I'm told that some of them hunted. There's a lot of in those days there was a lot of wild game in southern Louisiana. They fished, they hunted. The climate is great for gardening. It's just you can pretty much have a garden almost 12 months out of the year. So if you lived in that environment and you had some skills, you can make it. So that's one of the reasons I said it here is because I believe people could adjust in this part of the country if things like just really went to hell.
Yeah. So for you, did you ever think, I mean, you're a guy who's written hundreds of academic papers. Did you ever think that you'd write novels?
I always hoped so. I have wanted to write a novel since I was a child. I did a lot of reading. I grew up in a family that was a little dysfunctional. I think that would be fair to say. So I read a lot, and I wanted to be a novelist, but I didn't really have the background and experience to do it. So, as you say, Kate, I've written a bunch of academic articles, but of all the stuff I've written, the one work that I'm the proudest of, and I got so much out of it, was this novel. And I guess when I retired, by that time I had a lifetime of experience. I built on the culture of Louisiana and Texas. I lived in Texas a long time and sort of consider myself a Texan. And those two cultures seem to be life affirming in some way. Uh, and so I sat in those cultures. But I have to say, I'm a guy who wanted to write a novel since I was a kid, but I didn't really know what to write about until after I retired and could just reflect on it.
What do you hope people take away from reading the Dixie Apocalypse when they put it down and they take a breath? What do you hope they're feeling or thinking?
I hope they think about the future and think about the possibility that everything can break down. The electric grid could break down. I think that's probably the most likely scenario for real trouble would be for electricity to break down. But I'd like for them to think about how they would deal with it, maybe make some preparation, but also consider the possibility that those kinds of serious challenges might really bring new meaning to life. Like in World War II, they had a mission, and the people in the United States during World War II knew that they had to help the soldiers in the field, and they had to sacrifice. They had to be resilient, and so I'm hoping people will think about that. What would I do if these things happened? How could I manage? And I'd also like to plant the idea that it might be really exciting, and you might find skills and dispositions that you didn't even know about. And I think the final thing is I believe no matter, well, I guess it could be so bad you would lose a sense of humor, but my characters all had a sense of humor.
Mm.
And people who read it said, I was reading it, and my wife said, "What are you laughing about?" And he said he read the funny passages to his wife. I would like people to think about that. To have a zestfulness and a cheery disposition, it's sort of a can-do attitude, because Americans have that, but maybe we're not drawing on those strengths as much as we could, or as much as we would have to if the economy collapsed.
Boy, isn't that the truth? A sequel? Are you working on a sequel to this?
Yeah, Kate, I am. A sequel is set in West Texas, and I'm having a lot of fun with the sequel. The same characters, and they're facing, well, And in the sequel, California succeeds from the Union, forms its own country, and then California invades Texas. So that's what's going on.
Oh, I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun you can have with that idea, I think.
Oh boy, I bet. Well, you're right. You do laugh out loud at so many moments in this. The Dixie Apocalypse. Richard Fossey, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Kate.
Remember, you can get the book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
Yes.
Visit www.greatwritersmedia.com. Email us at info@greatwritersmedia.com. Call us at 877-600-5469. Subscribe now.